Good evening, everybody. It's me, the Gaming Geezer, Frank Fry, coming to you live and in person from Gainesville, Florida on December 4th, Friday, December 4th, 2015, on a chilly evening here in Central Florida. And yeah, it does get cool. I think it's going to get in the 50s tonight. And for all of you folks who live in much colder climes, yeah, I know it doesn't sound like much, but the hey. I think last time I remember snow in Florida was 1977. Anyway, tonight's topic, well, it's kind of a general discussion and so some things that I want to talk about. Mainly since we are closing in on the end of the year. So it's going to be in 27 more days. Yeah, excuse me. 27 more days. So what new projects, what new things do we have coming up? Again, uh, I first of all, my gaming group isn't meeting until after January, since a number of them are students at the University of Florida. Great gamers, great folks. However, finals and out of town, back to the back home and such to visit family. So that really kind of puts a crimp in things, at least for a while. Besides, it gives us a holiday break, but it can come back refreshed, ready to get going, because I am going to have something new. Now, one of the things, let's try it now. Now, one of the things that I really liked and really interested me was Game of Thrones, at least certain aspects of it. Now, I'm doing, with my friend Andy Thurlow, we're doing Lion Rampant, which is a medieval skirmish game, and we're using Game of Thrones as its theme. In other words, when we paint up our various retinues, Lannisters, Starks, do all those colors. And a very excellent gentleman on the Lion Rampant Facebook page actually gave some very, very good tips and advice about which figures to use. And it's fascinating the way it spills across. For those of, spills across various periods in medieval history. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Game of Thrones, my main house is House Martell. They live down in Dorne. That's where their strongholds are, which is a desert area. So after confronting, or rather conferring with Mr. Bright, who was the gentleman that was been giving such excellent advice, I said, what figures should I use? Could I use the Gripping Beast, plastic Arabs, their cavalry and their infantry? And he said, sure, that'll work pretty well. So yeah, and away we go. Anyway, as I got into that, I got more and more into the background, and tell you the truth, I've never read any of the books, and I've only seen a couple of episodes of the series, mainly to see what kind of armor they were wearing, what kind of battles, how they fought their battles and such. Believe me, it's much of nothing compared to some of the real spectacles you can see on the screen. The armor is straight out of Hollywood. It really is. So anyway, I thought, I remembered Kurt Weigel, Game Geeks, and if you're not watching his show, why aren't you watching his YouTube channel? The guy is really good, gives some very informative reviews. He had actually talked about an RPG called A Song of Ice and Fire, which of course is the original, or is actually is uh, the name of the series that George R. R. Martin wrote or writes. He was in the middle of writing. Yeah, you get what I mean. And I thought, well, okay, see what we got. So of course I go to Green Ronin's page. It's Green Ronin Publishers, because I've heard a lot of good things from Kurt Weigel about this game and the gaming system. But I thought, okay. So the first thing I do is I go to Green Ronin, of course, check them out, make sure everything they're still being published. There's nothing worse than becoming enamored of a RPG that they just don't print anymore. So you're kind of SOL, you know, when it comes to getting new material. This is not the case with Green Ronin. They have a number of fascinating public scenes out. So I scooted on over to Drive Through RPG and I got the PDF of the Game of Thrones. Well, it's actually titled A Song of Ice and Fire RPG Game of Thrones Edition. And I skimmed through it and I read through what I regard as the most important, and that is character creation. Background material is wonderful. It's just loaded with background material. And the one thing I noticed, and that Kurt had pointed out in his reviews, is you could really use this system for just about any low magic or even non-magic campaign, chronicle. Not only do they have a character generation system, but since in Game of Thrones, what house you belong to, House Lannister, House Baratheon, House Stark, House Martell, you know, you can actually create your own minor noble house that fits in with the setting in Game of Thrones, which is the continent of Westeros. And I thought, well, damn, this is intriguing, because you can also do this with your own, roll your own setting, which is certainly an interesting idea and one that I really like. Although the background information from what I have seen in the Game of Thrones RPG is extremely extensive. They have Game of Thrones Companion, which is a campaign companion book, which is basically a gazetteer of Westeros. You want to know everything that's going on in that bloody little patch of ground? This will tell you who screwed who, literally and otherwise, that kind of thing. But it does provide a tremendous amount of background. It's the same sort of thing you see in one of my very favorite games, Lord of the Rings, The One Ring. It includes a tremendous amount of setting in Tolkien's world. Now, the two worlds are very different. Very different. Game of Thrones is pretty much the anti-Middle Earth. It's dark fantasy, whereas Tolkien's was not. But still, the depth of information that is provided in both of these games is just amazing. It truly is. Same thing, for example, if you want to do science fantasy, Numenera, which I've talked about before, it's the same thing. These are beautifully constructed gaming universes. Beautifully done. I could think of some others that have perhaps vanished in the midst of time, so to speak. Fading Suns by Holistic Games, a space opera, morality play, dubbed, with science fiction going on. Now the difference is with Fading Suns is a whole and complete product unto itself. Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, of course, are licensed products, so you're actually taking a literary world. In that case, in Fading Suns, it's a world, they're worlds, but they are worlds that have been created for the game and not standalone literature. Another science fiction game that is drawn heavily from classic science fiction is Ringworld. If you can find that RPG, and good luck to you with that, it is an amazing achievement by the folks at Chaosium for capturing Larry Niven's universe. But again, it is drawn from an already published literary work. Now you can also get games like Traveler. Traveler's the granddaddy of them all. Yes, indeed it is. I'm playing with my mic to make sure that everybody can you hear me? I guess you can. But anyway, it's one of these where you can roll your own universe. Or they had a very extensive, game world. Okay, well, now that I've kind of rambled on about that, the thing about games like Lord of the Rings, the One Ring, uh, Game of Thrones, Ring World, these are works that are drawn from literature. In other words, somebody wrote a book, several books. In the case of Game of Thrones, several large, thick books. Well, of course, there's also been, I might as well, I better throw this out because I played the game, Dresden Files role-playing game from Evil Hat Productions. Very well done. Very well done. So I'm going to start exploring these worlds. I want to explore how well the gaming interface, for want of a better term, works with these various worlds. I also am looking at 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, and I'm plodding through that. Also looking at the new kid on the block, Cthulhu Abides. Dude, okay, I couldn't resist. Forgive me. The actual name is Cthulhu Abides. It's kind of out in beta test form, which is probably why it was so cheap on Amazon. But it's very interesting what the designer Jonathan Rowe is setting out to do. Very interesting indeed. I will be looking forward to probing more into this at a later date. Aside from that, I hope to be able to get hip enough with my cell phone or my smartphone to actually be able to take some videos of some of our miniatures games. Why? Because I also do that. And I'd like everybody to see that part of my hobby. So it looks like 2016 is going to be a very interesting year. A year that I once again will not go to Gen Con. Too big. Way too big for me now. When they start talking about a turnstile attendance of 100,000, they have to expand into the freaking Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play football in order to, never mind. It's just gotten too big. As far as gaming conventions go in 2016, looking forward to Recon down here in Florida. May go to a few others, I don't know. The big trip that I think we're going to be taking is to Kansas City, Missouri next August to the World Science Fiction Convention. Yes, WorldCon is being held in my hometown of Kansas City. And since I have a lot of relatives out there in the Midwest that I haven't seen in a long time, including my brother, yours truly will be going. If my wife decides to go, we're going to be driving. She doesn't do air travel very well. Can't say as I blame her. Um, can't say as I blame her. And I think that's about it. I'm going to be looking forward to doing more gaming, and hopefully maybe I'll do some campaign updates on here. I'm thinking about doing that. I've always said, hey, gee, maybe I should actually run one online. Well, who knows? I might actually decide to do that. Okay, everybody, that's really about all I got to say this Friday Night Follies here in Gainesville, Florida, on a chilly December. My God, it's December already. As a matter of fact, Christmas is 3 weeks, 21 days till Christmas. And I'm not really sure how long it is till the new Star Wars movie opens, but I'm probably going to wait for a while before I go see that. Anyway, everybody out there, y'all have fun, have happy holidays, enjoy your family and friends, because they're what makes it worth it. Have fun and play games.